At first, no one realized anything unusual was happening. The fields looked as peaceful as ever. The fences remained intact. No strange sounds echoed through the night. Yet little by little, unusual signs began to appear. A few young livestock animals failed to return with the herd. Sheep became increasingly alert whenever darkness settled over the landscape. Then, along the damp soil at the edge of the forest, unfamiliar tracks began to emerge. They stretched across the ground in a clear path, as if something had memorized every corner of the area long ago. Those mysterious visitors were wolves. They may not possess the overwhelming strength of a bear or the explosive speed of a cheetah, but they are masters of coordinated hunting. Every member of the pack serves a specific role. They communicate, work together, and use the terrain in ways few predators can match. That is exactly why managing wolves has always been such a difficult challenge. To better understand their opponent, wildlife management teams began installing surveillance cameras throughout key areas. Over time, the footage revealed a much larger picture of the pack's movements and behavior. The results showed that wolves rarely travel at random. Instead, they rely on familiar travel corridors that have been used for years. These routes often follow creek beds, hillsides, and dense stretches of forest that provide both cover and security. Once these movement patterns were identified, experts moved on to the next phase. Rather than scattering traps across a wide area, they focus on locations wolves were almost certain to pass through. These natural bottlenecks included narrow trails and confined pathways where multiple routes eventually converged into a single point. The foothold trap was carefully concealed with extraordinary attention to detail. The ground was restored to appear as natural as possible. Dry leaves, grass, and surface soil were meticulously arranged to eliminate any sign of disturbance. Even human scent was minimized as much as possible. With their remarkably sensitive sense of smell, wolves can detect even the smallest change in their surroundings. If they sense something unusual, an entire pack may abandon the area and shift to a completely different route. However, the key to success was never the trap itself. The real challenge was understanding wolf behavior. Wolves are extremely cautious animals. They rarely rush towards something unfamiliar. Before making a decision, they often stop to observe, evaluate, and inspect their surroundings multiple times. That is why behavioral research became the most important part of the entire process. Every track, every appearance on camera, and every subtle change in movement patterns provided valuable information. After weeks of monitoring, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. On one of the surveillance screens, a mature wolf appeared along the edge of the monitored area. It moved calmly down a trail the pack had used many times before. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing triggered suspicion. As it stepped onto a location that had been carefully selected in advance, the trap mechanism was activated instantly. The entire event unfolded in a fraction of a second. Moments later, the wildlife management team arrived to carry out the proper procedures. But capturing a single wolf did not mean the story was over. The remaining wolves quickly responded to the change. They adjusted their routes, altered their activity patterns, and became far more cautious. As a result, wildlife specialists were forced to continue adapting as well. The ongoing contest between humans and one of nature's most intelligent predators had entered a new phase. Managing wolves has never been simply about traps or equipment. It is a process built on patience, observation, and a deep understanding of behavior. In the vast wilderness, where every track tells a story, the ultimate advantage belongs to the side that understands its opponent best. Areas near forests or semi-wild regions often change as natural environments shrink over time. As forest land decreases due to the expansion of residential areas and production zones, the natural food sources for wolves also decline. This forces them to travel farther in search of food. At first, wolves only appear deep in the forest or in areas with little human presence. Later, they gradually move toward forest edges and closer to residential zones. Their frequency of appearance increases over time. This indicates that their movement behavior is changing as they adapt to the new environment surrounding human settlements and nearby farms. In the next stage, wolves begin to appear at night or during dawn. They may travel alone or in small groups. While moving, they often follow fences, trails, or areas with dense vegetation. These routes help them avoid detection. In some cases, wolves approach livestock areas very closely before quickly retreating. Their appearance becomes increasingly frequent near the boundary between forest and residential areas. This significantly expands their range of activity. At the same time, the level of risk to livestock and human living areas increases based on real observed changes in the region. As the situation becomes more evident, control measures begin to be implemented. Observers track the familiar movement routes of wolves to determine suitable locations. Traps are placed along trails, near fences, at forest edges, and in open ground areas. These are places wolves commonly pass through while foraging. Bait is placed during setup to increase attraction efficiency. Surrounding areas are left unchanged to avoid alerting the animals. Observation points are also positioned discreetly to monitor the entire area without altering the natural movement behavior of wolves in controlled zone. After the trap system is fully installed, the area is kept quiet to avoid changing wolf behavior. At night, wolves begin to return along their familiar routes. They move more slowly when approaching baited areas and pause to observe their surroundings. They then continue through both vegetation cover and open ground.
Inaudio.
Observers monitor from hidden positions to record behavior. The stable environment makes wolves less cautious. This allows them to approach closer to prearranged control zone set up in advance in the forest edge area. As they approach the identified zone, wolves begin to enter the activation range. The scent of bait causes them to pause and observe before moving forward. During this process, they follow the pre-calculated path. Once sufficient trigger conditions are met, the trap mechanism activates rapidly. The animal is restrained at the exact location. The entire event happens so quickly that the wolf cannot change direction. After the situation ends, observers confirm that the trap location matches the actual movement routes of the wolf pack. After the trapping event, wolf packs continue to appear in the area in the following nights. They move more slowly and tend to observe more carefully before approaching. Some individuals change direction upon detecting unusual signs. However, familiar routes such as forest edges and trails are still frequently used. Their movement behavior becomes more cautious but does not disappear completely. Observers continue recording these changes to assess the impact of control measures in the real environment around forest edge and residential areas. Wolf control requires long-term observation and a clear understanding of movement behavior. When traps are placed in the correct locations, effectiveness increases. This helps reduce risks to livestock and residential communities in the area.
Wolves are predators that live in deep forests, mountainous regions, and vast grasslands. They have a high ability to adapt to changing environments, especially when natural food sources become scarce. Wolves usually live in packs, but they can also separate to hunt alone when necessary. When survival conditions become difficult, they begin expanding their range far beyond their familiar habitat. In some cases, wolves may move closer to human settlements if they discover more accessible food sources in the surrounding environment. The appearance of wolves near residential areas usually occurs at night or in the early morning when human activity is limited. They move cautiously, often following natural trails, fences, or areas with vegetation cover to avoid detection. Wolves rarely cross open spaces because they can easily be spotted from a distance. They may appear alone or in small groups depending on feeding conditions. Their repeated return to the same routes shows that they have developed stable movement patterns around the area, making their presence increasingly noticeable over time. As wolves appear more frequently, residents begin noticing clear impacts on daily life and livestock farming. Livestock and poultry face a higher risk of being threatened, especially at night. Signs such as unusual noises and footprints around fences cause people to become more alert. Some households even have to change their daily routines to ensure safety. The presence of wolves not only affects property but also creates psychological pressure on communities living near forests. Therefore, monitoring and control become necessary to reduce long-term risks in the area. After identifying the activity zone, traps are deployed along routes that wolves frequently use. Locations near fences, trails, or areas with vegetation cover are prioritized because these places are more likely to show signs of wolf activity. The people carrying out the operation try to keep the surrounding environment unchanged to avoid altering the wolves' natural behavior. Bait is placed to increase attraction. At the same time, observation from a distance helps minimize human presence, preventing wolves from becoming wary and suddenly changing their travel routes within the controlled area. The main reason wolves return to this area is the decline of natural food sources in their habitat. When conditions in the forest can no longer provide enough resources, they are forced to move closer to human settlements to survive. Farms and livestock facilities become targets because they offer easily accessible food. After successfully finding food there, wolves tend to remember the location and return out of habit. This increases the frequency of their appearances, forcing residents to implement control measures to reduce risks in forest-adjacent communities. After a period of monitoring and control, a key moment occurs when observers record a wolf caught in a trap at the prepared location. The animal is held within the controlled area and can no longer move freely as before. The surrounding area shows clear signs of disturbance, reflecting the wolf's earlier approach. Observation is carried out from a safe distance to ensure no danger is created. This result demonstrates that the trap location matched the wolf's travel route and confirms the effectiveness of the entire control process in the area.
Going on 2 weeks. We fired one, man. It has been a tough area. February's all over for us, but this has been just absolutely slow. We got on a set post set Bobcat here earlier on our radio, one of our built and remake. And when it being season, it's late season, they're just really not responding to dirt holes. Getting a little more. It's like any other set. You always want your traps a little bit lower than ground level. This rule.
The process of controlling wolves requires time, observation, and careful site selection. When movement patterns are well understood, the effectiveness of control measures can be significantly improved. This helps reduce risks to livestock and residential communities near forests. Maintaining monitoring efforts after control measures are completed is also important to ensure long-term stability and safety in the area.
Night. So we're gonna get her out. detected. We're gonna put a little bit of that. Guess that it's gonna be a female.
For some time recently, residents living near forested areas have repeatedly reported the presence of wolves around farms and livestock facilities.
A coyote
At
chasing a
first,
chihuahua
they
in the
appeared
backyard.
only at considerable distances, but over time, they gradually moved closer to areas where domestic animals were kept. Many people directly observed wolves traveling along fences or appearing near paths leading into agricultural properties. Most sightings occurred in the early morning or around dusk. Some packs even approached livestock enclosures before quickly leaving the area. The increasing frequency of these appearances over several days raised growing concerns among local residents about their potential impact. The presence of wolves quickly created significant effects on local life. Livestock owners became increasingly concerned about the safety of cattle, poultry, and other small domestic animals. Many families reinforced fences or increased inspections of their barns and enclosures each evening. In addition to the potential losses involving livestock, the frequent appearance of wolves also affected the community's sense of security. In some areas, residents reduced outdoor activities at night to avoid unwanted encounters. In response to the situation, trapping efforts began in areas frequently used by wolves. Observers spent time identifying routes where signs of wolf activity repeatedly appeared before selecting suitable trap locations. Areas near trails, forest edges, and fence lines were often given priority. The trapping system was carefully positioned to match the wolves' movement patterns.
You notice when I make the dirt around it. And that's why wax sand, if you dig your bed correctly.
It was also prepared to improve the chances of attracting them into the controlled area. Throughout the process, the surrounding environment was kept as unchanged as possible to avoid altering the natural behavior of the wolf packs.
You remember what?
The main reason wolves continued returning to the area was closely linked to their search for food. When natural food sources became less abundant or harder to access, livestock operations became attractive targets. Many wolf packs remembered locations where they had previously found food and returned out of habit. In response, residents combined trapping efforts with several other control measures.
They say
various deterrent activities were carried out to limit the wolves' ability to approach livestock. Despite these efforts, wolves continued appearing for many consecutive days, indicating that the challenge remained significant. After the trapping system had been in place for some time, those managing the operation began reviewing all previously established trap locations. Some sites proved more effective because they were positioned directly along the wolves' regular trap route. In contrast, locations showing little activity were adjusted or moved to more suitable areas. Bait was also changed when necessary to maintain its effectiveness. These reviews and adjustments gradually made the trapping system better suited to the actual behavior. This stage was considered important before clear control results could be achieved.
And then some gray fox urine on the of it, just a little bit. I mean, very, very little. That you can also get at Shop Carolina Coat. We're gonna put a little.
So yesterday, I don't know, I'd change the name of it, honestly.
After many days of monitoring and adjustments, the expected result
we got another coyote
appeared.
to go get.
At one of the previously selected locations, a wolf was found caught in a trap. The control system functioned as intended when the animal entered the baited area. Observers documented the event directly during a routine inspection of the site. The successful captures demonstrated that the process of identifying travel routes and selecting deployment locations had been effective.
After she got caught last night. I want some good over here.
For the animal, when he first gets in there, he'll fight the trap.
Following this event, the frequency of wolf sightings around the area began to decline compared to earlier periods. Residents continued maintaining necessary protective measures to reduce the likelihood of wolves returning, while also preserving long-term stability for the local livestock operations. Beneath the night sky of Wyoming, wolf howls echoed from the distant pine forests. At first, they appeared only occasionally near the end of winter, but within a few years, their tracks began showing up around most grazing areas. Young calves disappeared during the night. Fences were damaged, and many ranchers spent sleepless nights patrolling their property. What worried them most was not just the growing losses, but the remarkable coordination of wolf packs that had become accustomed to living near human activity. As the attacks increased, many ranchers realized that traditional methods were no longer effective. Bows, firearms, and guard dogs could not reliably stop wolves operating under the cover of darkness.
Got it.
Instead of reacting after each incident, they began adopting behavior-based management systems designed to make grazing areas less favorable for predators. Wildlife specialists started studying travel routes, activity patterns, and the way wolf packs selected targets before approaching livestock. After identifying the wolves' regular travel corridors, wildlife management teams deployed control systems directly along the routes most frequently used by the animals. The new design was intended to hold a wolf without causing injury. Motion sensors and remote monitoring cameras provided continuous surveillance of the area while minimizing human presence, since even a faint, unfamiliar scent could cause a pack to avoid the area for weeks. Every piece of equipment was carefully concealed to blend into the natural landscape and avoid attracting the attention of the most cautious animals. For many nights, the wolves continued to appear while keeping their distance from suspicious locations. They followed fence lines, investigated grazing grounds, and then returned to their usual routes, carefully checking for any changes. The footage revealed that wolves do not rely solely on instinct. They remember terrain features, detect subtle environmental changes, and quickly adapt when they sense danger, making them far more difficult to manage than many other predators. Some nights, they simply observed from a distance and left without approaching the livestock, as if evaluating how safe the area truly was. On the fifth night, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Cameras captured the lead wolf stepping onto a narrow trail near a creek, where the equipment had been hidden beneath soft soil and dry grass for days. Just seconds later, the system was triggered. Yet the most remarkable part was not the device itself, but the reaction of the remaining members of the pack. The following morning, the wildlife management team quickly returned to the site. After conducting a safety assessment, they approached carefully. A specialized transport crate was brought close to the location. Every movement was performed slowly to minimize stress on the animal. After only a few minutes of coordinated effort, the wolf was guided into the crate and the door was securely closed. Throughout the process, established procedures were followed to ensure the safety of both people and wildlife. The entire operation was carried out under controlled conditions, minimizing risk for both humans and animals. Once the transport vehicle departed, the wolf was relocated to a designated wildlife conservation area. This was the most important stage of the process because the ultimate goal was not to eliminate wolves from their natural habitat. What ranchers truly wanted was to create a safe buffer between wildlife and livestock operations. By understanding travel routes, daily habits, and the ways wolves adapt to their surroundings, people gain more opportunities to reduce conflict without relying entirely on aggressive measures. The conflict between humans and wolves will likely continue for many years. However, experience from behavior-based management programs has demonstrated that these strategies are far more effective than relying solely on force or constant pursuit. Understanding the opponent allows people to develop more sustainable solutions for both sides. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to discover more fascinating stories about wildlife and life along the edge of nature.
Over the past several years, wolves have gradually returned to many rural and mountainous regions across Russia.
Going together and move.
For biologists, this is often viewed as a sign that ecosystems are recovering. But for many ranchers and livestock owners, the growing presence of these predators has created new challenges. From large farms bordering dense forests to remote mountain communities, signs of wolf activity are becoming increasingly common. Wolves track livestock, use the terrain to their advantage, and sometimes cause significant losses for farmers. Once a pack establishes territory in an area, the pressure on livestock can persist for months, forcing rural communities to continually search for more effective ways to protect their animals. As pressure from wolf packs continues to grow, many ranch owners have been forced to invest heavily in protecting their livestock. They install surveillance cameras, reinforce fencing, use warning systems, and hire professional wildlife control teams when necessary.
Come along.
However, unlike many opportunistic predators, wolves are highly coordinated pack hunters. They memorize terrain, learn from experience, and quickly change their behavior when they sense danger. This turns wolf management into a prolonged battle strategy, where even a small mistake can undo weeks of preparation. In modern wildlife management, steel foothold traps are considered one of the most important tools in areas experiencing high levels of predation. However, deploying them is far more complex than many people assume. Control teams spend days surveying the landscape, searching for tracks, for caught on fences, scent marking locations, and the travel routes wolves use most often. Every trap is carefully positioned to take advantage of the animal's natural movement patterns rather than forcing them toward a specific location. Before any trap is set, specialists typically monitor the area using infrared cameras and motion sensors to better understand behavior of the entire pack. They record activity times, approach routes, and locations where wolves frequently stop to observe their surroundings. The most important objective is to avoid making the area appear unusual. Even the slightest sign of danger can cause an entire pack to change its route and disappear from the area for weeks. As a result, most of the operation is spent watching and waiting rather than actually setting traps. Once a suitable location has been identified, steel foothold traps are installed along natural travel corridors. These pathways often develop over many years of repeated use, following creek banks, mountain passes, and forest edges where wolves feel safest. Rather than moving randomly across the landscape, most wolf packs rely on familiar routes that have been used for generations. Understanding these invisible corridors greatly increases control effectiveness without expanding the area of intervention. However, even with increasingly advanced surveillance technology and years of field experience, managing wolves remains a difficult task. They work as a team, remember their surroundings, and adapt their behavior quickly. An area that remains quiet for several months can suddenly show fresh signs of wolf activity after a single breeding season. When one route becomes heavily monitored, new travel corridors often emerge deeper in the forest or farther away from areas with regular human activity. Ultimately, the story of wolves is about far more than steel foothold traps, surveillance equipment, or wildlife control programs. It highlights the complexity of balancing wildlife conservation with the protection of human livelihoods. Every improvement in management brings new challenges because the opponent is not a simple animal, but an intelligent predator that has adapted to its environment for thousands of years. And in the end, the question remains, are humans truly controlling the return of wolves, or are we simply learning to live alongside a part of nature that never completely disappeared?
On the fields along the northern forest edge, within just a few short weeks, dozens of livestock disappeared, leaving farmers with fear and enormous economic losses. Barns and fences remained intact, yet every morning, wet soil revealed footprints leading straight into the forest. The wolves were not merely hunting instinctively. They had learned to move with precision, avoiding all conventional traps and striking at times when farmers least expected, causing losses of hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single night. Realizing that regular patrols were ineffective, the farmers tried several direct approaches. Some attempted to catch wolves with nets, but due to the animals' speed and vigilance, these efforts yielded almost no results. Eventually, they collaborated with a wildlife management team to deploy a trapping system. The first strategy was cage traps placed along trails identified by footprints and drag marks. The sturdy steel cages were large enough to hold adult wolves and contained enticing bait such as raw meat or small offal. The cages were camouflaged with branches, forest leaves, and a thin layer of mud, making it difficult for wolves to recognize the danger. After several days of monitoring with infrared cameras and remote tracking, wolves began appearing around the cage traps. Some were successfully captured overnight, quickly checked by medical staff to ensure they were healthy and uninjured, and then relocated to designated protected areas. This approach ensured the wolves' safety while allowing managers to analyze individual behavior, assess population status, and adjust trap placement strategies accordingly. Other wolves remained cautious, circling without entering the cages. At this stage, foothold traps were deployed. Placed near narrow paths and dense vegetation, these traps were designed to hold a wolf's paw without causing serious injury. Trap locations were calculated based on the pack's patrol behavior, often along worn dirt paths or near water sources. These traps complemented the cage traps, providing additional opportunities to capture intelligent, wary wolves while dispersing pressure from the pack across open fields. Foothold traps were checked multiple times daily to ensure that any trapped wolf would not experience excessive stress and could be handled quickly.
Right, so if you want to bunch up a little bit while we're releasing.
The combination of cage and foothold traps created a double effect. When one wolf was captured in a cage, it altered the behavior of the entire pack, causing the remaining wolves to move into pre-prepared locations. After several days, some wolves were successfully captured, and farmers began to notice a significant reduction in livestock attacks.
In the US,
However, the remaining clever wolves remained vigilant. This is when the final strategy was implemented: direct hunting using bows or long-range firearms to manage dangerous individuals already accustomed to traps. Hunters chose times when wolves moved out of the forest into open fields, minimizing noise and carefully observing behavior. Bow hunting required precise skill and served as an effective tool to reduce wolf pressure on the farms. Once the last individuals were controlled, farmers observed a clear change. Livestock no longer disappeared unexpectedly, and fences and barns remained intact. The integrated system of cage traps, foothold traps, and direct hunting proved effective, significantly reducing losses while stabilizing the wolf population, protecting farmers' livelihoods, and respecting conservation rules. Throughout the process, every action, from trap placement to inspection and retrieval, was recorded on camera to ensure transparency and safety. The data helped predict pack behavior, optimize trap locations, and plan patrol schedules. To see detailed demonstrations of each trap type, strategic placement, and effective wolf tracking techniques, follow the channel and turn on notifications. The demonstration videos guide how to protect livestock and safely manage wildlife.
Little points on my trap right there. Down in there, like so.
Hindfoot catch, which is an idea.
It all began with silence. There were no howls echoing through the night. No clear signs of chaos appeared around the farms. Only unexplained gaps. A few young calves went missing. Sheep herds became unusually restless whenever night fell. And then, on the soft mud beside the fence, footprints appeared. They were not wandering aimlessly. They moved as if they had memorized every tree root, every stream gap, and every trail cutting through the forest. The wolves were returning. Unlike many other predators, wolves do not rely on sheer strength. They win through coordination. A pack can track a target for hours, memorize terrain, and change tactics in the middle of a pursuit. This is what turns controlling them into a long game of strategy, where every move must be carefully calculated. Infrared cameras were deployed along natural movement corridors. Night after night, the footage began to reveal an invisible network stretching across the mountains and forests. Wolves did not move randomly. They used fixed routes passed down through generations. These paths were like hidden highways understood only by them. Once the movement patterns were decoded, the next phase began. Instead of placing traps everywhere, wildlife control teams focused on natural choke points. These could be narrow passages between cliffs, a dry stream bed, or a gap between dense clusters of trees. The goal was not to force a wolf into a trap. The goal was to place the trap exactly where it was already going to pass. The steel foothold trap was prepared so carefully it almost disappeared into the ground. Each layer of dry leaves was meticulously repositioned. Soil was dusted to match the surrounding environment. Even human scent had to be minimized as much as possible. With a sense of smell far beyond many other animals, wolves can detect a single unusual detail that the human eye would miss. One small mistake was enough to make an entire pack change routes for weeks.
So this dog box bedding is
But the hardest part was not hiding the trap. The hardest part was understanding the mind of the wolf. Adult wolves rarely rush into anything new. They observe, they test, they sniff repeatedly before making a decision. This is why experts spend weeks monitoring behavior. Every new footprint on the ground, every camera angle, and every slight change in movement routes becomes an essential piece of a larger puzzle.
Yep.
Then, on a freezing night, the long-awaited moment finally arrived. On the monitoring screen, the silhouette of a large wolf appeared under infrared light. It moved slowly along the familiar corridor. No rush, no hesitation. Everything around it matched what it had seen for months. When the next step landed on the pre-calculated spot, the trap mechanism instantly triggered. The entire process happened in a fraction of a second. Rapid response teams quickly arrived at the scene to handle the situation according to wildlife management protocols. The system's goal was not to create a violent confrontation. Instead, everything was designed to minimize risk to humans, livestock, and the surrounding ecosystem. But the story did not end with a single capture. The remaining wolves quickly adapted. They changed routes, shifted activity times, and became more cautious. Once again, the strategic game began. Wolf control has never been just about a steel foothold trap. It is a battle of patience, observation, and understanding one of North America's most intelligent predators. In that vast forest, where every footprint tells its own story, victory does not belong to the stronger side. It belongs to the one who understands the opponent's behavior better than anyone else.
Feed the pack for several days.